This video simulates an engagement between the US and Venezuelan Armed Forces in what was meant to be a hypothetical operation, a proof of concept for a much faster type of video. Events have started moving quickly on the ground, and I promised someone that I would get this out there if that became the case. The scenario was built with assets that were in theater in early November and is no longer fully accurate. For example, certain warships you'll see have left the theater, while others have since joined. The video is not an attempt to realistically model granular details. No software is capable of doing that. It is, however, meant to visualize, broadly, what the interaction dynamics between missiles, aircraft, and SAM systems might look like at a grand scale. So please bear that in mind, even as the simulation does make smaller granular predictions. With all that out of the way, on with the video. Some context first. Since August of this year, the United States has been deploying and building up forces in the Caribbean. On the 1st of September, the United States military conducted the first of many strikes on Venezuelan maritime vessels. The US administration alleges that these vessels are being utilized by criminal groups within Venezuela to smuggle narcotics internationally. Alongside the ongoing strikes, the US military continues to build up its presence within the Caribbean. Among the most notable include the reactivation of Roosevelt Roads Naval Base, currently being expanded to host a variety of military aircraft, including high-end F-35B fighter jets. The USS Iwo Jima and its amphibious assault group, ready to support a marine landing force should it be deemed necessary. And the USS Gerald R. Ford, the US Navy's most advanced carrier, alongside its contingent, arriving from the Middle Eastern theater. On board are a combined 90 aircraft, including specialized electronic warfare and SEAD assets, which are in the process of forming up for an airstrike. These will play a pivotal role in suppressing and destroying enemy air defenses. Finally, scattered throughout these naval formations are numerous guided missile cruisers and destroyers. At last count, over 250 Tomahawk land attack missiles to attack targets at standoff range. These will be further augmented with inbound flights of B-52 and B-1B bombers, armed with another 200 or so of the newer, stealthier JASSM cruise missiles. The US begins its campaign with an initial salvo of 60 Block 4 Tomahawk cruise missiles. Skimming above the surface of the water, they'll use the curvature of the Earth to hide from ground-based radar for as long as possible. Let's hop over to the other side. Venezuelan air defenses are a mixture of older and newer systems. For short-range and point defense, the Venezuelans utilize older S-125s that have been modernized and mounted on trucks. Their limited range means that they'll be placed near the sites that they'll be defending. Covering the middle ranges is the more modern SA-17 Buk, a flexible system that's capable against both cruise missiles and aircraft. Its high mobility lends itself to pop-up tactics, turning on its radar briefly to fire a missile before scooting off to a new location. Overlooking the longer ranges are a handful of S-300VM batteries, armed with large two-stage rockets capable of reaching 200 kilometers. These surface-to-air missile systems have the best chance of reaching out and inflicting losses back on the strike force. Taking a look now at the elevation map, all Venezuelan SAM batteries are optimally positioned for radar line of sight, high up on the hills and ridges overlooking the targets that they'll be defending. The air defense will be integrated and multi-layered, with various SAMs mutually supporting each other with overlapping fields of fire. Most of the higher-end assets have been concentrated in and around the city of Caracas, with special emphasis on defending its various ports and airfields, likely targets for the incoming strike. Finally, up above fly Venezuelan fighter jets, composed primarily of fairly capable Su-30 Mark IIs imported from Russia. These represent the active component of Venezuela's air defenses, making it the most dangerous element when it comes to disrupting a US fixed-wing campaign. Venezuelan air defenses are defending quite well against the initial Tomahawk strike. The fairly modern S-300VM especially is able to contribute to the wider defense effort, achieving interceptions as far out as 30 nautical miles, but even the ancient S-125 Pecora is able to achieve hits though at much closer ranges, typically around 5 nautical miles. I've held back Venezuelan fighter jets even though they can in theory help shoot down cruise missiles. They'll want to save their munitions for blue team's fighter jets for maximum effect. So far, Venezuelan defenses are holding. Red team's ground-based SAMs have achieved an interception rate of approximately 85%, though this number is highly dependent on the concentration and quality of the defenses. Heavily defended Caracas achieves something like 95% interception, whereas the less defended outlying areas might only achieve closer to 50%. A caveat about this first engagement. I've hinted earlier that these were older Block 4 Tomahawks. The Tomahawk cruise missile dates back to the 80s and was initially designed for a less contested environment. Modern SAM systems are designed to engage these older cruise missiles fairly reliably. The US Navy is currently in the process of replacing them with the newer Block 5 Maritime Strike Tomahawk, which incorporates modern features such as a reduced radar signature, anti-GPS jamming, and network-centric communications, allowing them to strike moving targets while navigating the modern electronic warfare environment. Resuming the simulation, American warships emptied their vertical launch cells, unleashing a second larger wave of Block 5 Tomahawks at Venezuelan targets. At the same time, flights of B-52 and B-1B bombers release another 200 or so JASSM cruise missiles aimed at the defenses. Despite most Block 4 Tomahawks failing to reach their targets, the attack still forces a major concession out of Red Team. Enemy radars were forced to turn on and emit in order to achieve the earlier interceptions. Meanwhile, Blue Team has been quietly gathering electronic intelligence via airborne platforms, steadily pinpointing the locations of ground-based SAMs through leaked signals. The seed package now turns to engage the enemy. Spearheading the attack are F-35s, using their radar stealth to penetrate into enemy airspace, lofting max-range AMRAAMs at Venezuelan Sukhois. Red Team's fighters are caught in a difficult position. The plan is to coordinate with the ground-based SAMs as part of an integrated air defense network, but even hanging back 20 miles behind the front line, they are subject to long-distance harassing fire. Venezuelan fighters attempt to rally and push forwards to assist the ground-based defenses in repelling the attackers, but a continuous hail of AMRAAMs repeatedly drive them back. Here come the heavy siege weapons. Extended range anti-radar missiles are flung at the static defenses. Chaos and madness. Red Team's ground-based air defenses weather the assault as best as they can, but these anti-radiation missiles are significantly more dangerous compared to the earlier cruise missiles. Traveling at over Mach 3, these missiles have an interception window measured in seconds. The short-range SAMs get a single attempt. The defense gets increasingly spotty. Meanwhile, S-300VM batteries attempt to engage onto the F-35s, but even at 50 nautical miles, radar illuminators on the ground struggle to light up the stealth aircraft with the semi-active 9M82 giant missiles. Most attacks blindly sail overhead. Venezuelan Sukhois too are under a similar attack, but without the benefits of stealth and ECM, they must instead rely on their aircraft's aerodynamic supermaneuverability, dodging and weaving between missiles with supernatural grace. But as the assault presses on, Venezuelan fighters run low on altitude and speed. And luck. Still, these Sukhois are a significant threat, especially with their R-77 Adder missiles. These do have active radar seekers and have a realistic shot of hitting an F-35. Around this time, the Venezuelans catch a break. A pair of Super Hornets stray too close while trying to get a better shot off. Call sign Flexit gets swatted out of the sky. Looking through the combat calculations, Venezuelan missiles have to defeat multiple layers of ECM, decoys, and chaff in order to achieve a hit. When taken together, the probability of any individual missile hitting is reduced to single-digit percentages. The fighting is starting to peter out. Venezuelan ground-based air defenses have mostly been suppressed. A handful of F-35Bs are trading shots with the few remaining Sukhois. One of the more valid criticisms of the F-35 is its comparatively weak missile depth. Each F-35 can carry just 4 AMRAAMs internally while maintaining stealth. These get used up incredibly quickly. Compare that to the F-15EX, which can carry up to 22 air-to-air missiles. Of course, the F-15EX wouldn't be able to penetrate this deeply into enemy airspace with such safety. Meanwhile, F-35s have been taking closer and closer engagements, trying to increase the lethality of their AMRAAMs. The last couple of Sukhois finally go down. I need to mention that Red Team's Sukhois put up a fierce resistance to get to this point. For example, callsign Slav Squad, the last surviving Venezuelan fighter, dodged 15 AMRAAMs according to the combat logs, and responded back with 5 R-77s of his own, though none of them managed to connect. But during a BVR fight lasting more than 10 minutes, he survived more than half a dozen volleys of AMRAAMs while dueling multiple F-35s. Quite the journey. Viewing a time-lapse of the entire exchange, we see a strong initial response from the Venezuelan side, but most of the early firepower are defensive interceptions. Red Team is able to get some shots off, but Blue Team is protected through a combination of stealth and ECM, making connections unlikely. Meanwhile, weapons are impacting on Red Team's SAMs and fighters, and we see the defenses steadily degrade until we are left with a handful of fighters trading shots. Sukhois and F-35s continue to duel for a bit, but this sort of BVR fight heavily favors the F-35. Eventually, the last Venezuelan Sukhoi goes down, giving Blue Team airspace supremacy and setting us up for the final stage of the attack. At this point, the majority of Venezuelan ground-based SAMs have had their radars smashed in by an ARGM missile and can no longer fight. I've ordered these air batteries to pack up and make a run for it. Usually, if you can get out of the immediate area, you are pretty safe from a follow-up strike. Unfortunately for them, here we get to see the F-35's strength as a sensor platform, approaching to within 20 nautical miles of the coast in order to keep an eye on the SAMs trying to escape into the hills, feeding live updates to the Block 5 Tomahawks which are tracking these moving targets. Here we see the S-300VM battery pick a great moment to take a smoke break, leaving the poor Buk to get overwhelmed by customers during the lunch rush. Cruise missiles smash into piers, runways, and depots. A devastating finish. As the missile attack begins to settle, US aircraft start returning to base to begin landing and recovery operations, giving us a moment to assess the damage. Red Team's losses are severe. Among their ground-based SAMs, nearly every single emitting radar was smashed by an anti-radiation missile or a follow-up cruise missile. The non-emitting vehicles within these air batteries fared somewhat better, with 30% of launcher vehicles surviving the encounter. Most of these would have survived to fight another day were it not for the follow-up Tomahawk strikes. I need to mention that this part of the simulation tends to favor the attacking side. All units are permanently out in the open within the simulated environment. The only way to get out of sight is to get behind a mountain. In the real world, ground forces also have the option of seeking local shelter such as inside a tunnel or bunker complex, which is something the software does not attempt to model. Turning our attention now to Blue Team, the US expended a significant amount of higher-end munitions to achieve this result. The number of JASSMs used especially is likely excessive, as these weapons are designed with peer and near-peer conflicts in mind. Blue Team could likely have achieved a similar result using cheaper glide bombs and even JDAMs once enemy air defenses have been sufficiently degraded. Still, a core assumption of the scenario is the usage of maximum force to bring about a decisive victory as quickly as possible, and aggressive usage of standoff munitions does help achieve this. Speaking of aggressive usage, the way I've operated the Navy Seed Force was fairly aggressive. Navy Super Hornets had the option of firing their ARGM-ERs at 150 nautical miles and backing off, staying comfortably out of SAM range. The software does not think that the S-300VM's radar is capable of burning through the Growler's jammer at that distance, but I had the Seed Force continuously push forwards with their ARGM-ERs in order to get higher energy shots off. The loss of the Super Hornet occurred at 80 nautical miles, when enemy raiders were finally able to burn through the Growler's offensive jamming. This would be something of an unforced error, especially for US Navy aviators who specialize in this sort of large-scale seed and deed strikes. Still, strange things can occur both in simulations and in real life, so we'll let these results stand. Oh, if you're interested, you can also try out the simulation for yourself. See if you can get a cleaner run. I've listed the scenario files in the HypOps Discord server, link below. A couple of points regarding the Venezuelan Armed Forces. Red Team in particular has been difficult to assess. The VAF's operational readiness has often been called into question. For example, these are the figures for their higher-end aircraft and SAMs, taken from the Military Balance 2024, but taking these numbers at face value and implementing them directly into the simulation would be an overestimation of their capabilities. The last decade and a half have not been kind to the Venezuelan Armed Forces. The combination of sanctions, corruption, and neglect on Venezuela has led to a severe socio-economic crisis, which has led to detrimental effects on their military. I've spent half an hour online hunting for a graph to show their military expenditure these last few years and have not been able to find anything official. They've stopped releasing their budget numbers. That's not a good sign. Many of their higher-end systems have gone a decade without proper maintenance. Several former expatriate Venezuelan officers have given pessimistic assessments on the VAF's readiness levels, citing numbers such as 33% operational readiness for both the Air Force and Navy, and as low as 20% for their surface-to-air missile systems. Another report indicates that of the 21 Venezuelan Su-30MK2s, just 4 are believed to be operational. Given these bleak indicators, I've tried to account for this variable of operational readiness and cut the number of their higher-end assets in half, an operational reduction of 50%. In addition, I've knocked them down one proficiency level compared to their American counterparts, causing a modest increase in their OODA loop, how quickly Venezuelan units are able to react to new information and make decisions within the simulation. Bear in mind that this is an abstraction, a major simplification of the real world. The software makes no attempt to simulate complex human variables such as morale. All Venezuelan units are perfectly willing to stay at their posts and fight to the bitter end. The SAM batteries only moved earlier because I instructed them to tear down and escape when their radar gets smashed as an illustration of network-centric warfare. All in all, the way I've implemented the Venezuelan side is likely a generous assessment of their capabilities. Even so, all indicators suggest that in a direct conventional war, Venezuelan forces will not be able to stand up to the US military. Which leads to the second point. The Venezuelan military understands these facts, that to fight in a conventional style would not be conducive to their survival. Recent updates suggest that the Venezuelans are instead prepared to fight a guerrilla-style war, to give up control of the airspace in order to conserve their assets and threaten a much longer, drawn-out type of war, to outlast the current US administration's political will to fight, even if it takes weeks or months or years. The United States, on the other hand, does not want to be stuck in a long war. Nobody does. The mere threat of airstrikes has already put significant pressure on the Maduro regime. The US military may attempt to go further, to forcibly remove Venezuelan leadership, perhaps through a special operation, but we are now beyond the scope of what the software can reasonably hope to simulate, meaning it is also time we wrap up what I hope remains a hypothetical operation. Hey, so I've been gone for a while now, and I'm glad to finally be back. I've been plugging away at this project these last few years, even if I've been pretty quiet about it, and I finally got some good news. I figured out how to make a faster video. Now stay with me. It took me a long time, slowly learning all the things necessary to make a faster video, while still keeping it reasonable quality, and I think I'm finally getting there. Instead of having to painstakingly craft each and every video over multiple months, I've been working on a factory process that can assemble that same video within weeks. This video is the first to roll off the new assembly line, with more already on the way. I hope you'll forgive me for the hiatus. Much more frequent uploads from now on, starting with that Finland vs. Russia video, which will drop sometime during the new year. I'll see you around soon. One last thing, I need to apologize especially to my generous patrons, many who have supported me for a long time without a proper update. To my most loyal supporters who I have listed here, who've supported me for a year or longer without a proper video, I hereby award you with the HypOps Patreon Perpetuity, meaning you will receive those Patreon perks forever for free until the day I keel over. This perpetuity technically also exists going forward. Technically because no one else will ever get it, since I won't ever be going another full year without uploading a video. Finally, to the patrons who are still subscribed to me, for reasons I can't fathom, You will all receive the perpetuity, plus I will bump you up a tier as long as you maintain your subscription. Thank you for your incredible patience and support.